Get your day started right. From our shack to yours, this is Coffee and Ham Radios. We are live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey.
Welcome, everybody. Today's show is going to be about antennas. And if you have been a ham radio curious person for more than about 5.5 seconds, you know that means that today's show is going to be an argument. So bring it in the chat. That's what it's all about. It's all in
an
good
argument.
Fun. We're going to have a blast talking about it because that's what antennas are.
Get off my lawn.
Right. So you guys, if you've been paying attention to the show for a while, we do sell our own antennas. We'll talk about those a little bit, but we're not going to limit today's conversation to our antennas exclusively. We're going to talk about some antennas that we haven't made available yet. So there's that to look forward to as well. How's everybody doing this morning? How you doing, Chuck?
I am doing awesome, man. Well, actually, I'm not. I visited the grandkids last week, and I don't know if you guys have grandkids or anything, but young kids are always sick.
They make you drink?
So Chuck's sick. But I don't usually, they did make me drink a little bit, but that was a different reason. Yeah, I'm a little under the weather, but it's weird. I got a cold. It's kind of weird because I don't really feel too sick. I have a few symptoms, you know, so
So Doc Brad has brought the cure like any good doctor would. Thank you very much, Doc Brad. Merry Christmas,
appreciate
gentlemen.
it.
Bring on
Thanks,
the
Brad.
stage knowledge.
Awesome.
So during the bumper, Chuck told me that he feels better already. Thank you very much, Doc.
Yeah, that made me feel better. Hey, you know, I did a video the other day. If you guys haven't seen it, it's on a fishing reel, something I've been wanting to do for a really long time.
Yeah, he would not
back
shut
when
up
I did.
about it.
Oh no, I know. These guys had to watch pictures of it as it progresses and all that stuff.
Now you can stop talking about it.
It really no, I won't.
Can't stop
It
talking.
really worked good, and I really wanted to do it on.
He
I
misses
wanted to do
that,
an in-fed half wave, but the reel I bought I didn't. Well, they gave me measurements, but it wasn't measurements for the reel. It was just like overall measurements, and I didn't bother to look at it. So
Awesome.
it was a little short of the wire wise. So I did the 9-to-1, and I was sitting there listening to a guy from South Africa on it, so it must actually receive that. In the 710 is just really awesome. If you guys haven't tried one out, just let you know that.
K0HO Brian, member for 3 months. Merry Christmas all.
Hey,
Merry
Brian.
Christmas to you, Brian.
Thank you,
Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
And we got Randy with the replay there. Let's see if Randy can do a better job on this one. TC Fitz with $20 super chat this morning.
Fitz.
Happy Saturday and happy holidays to you, TC Fitz.
Yeah, happy holidays.
Look at that. Randy's a pro. Randy takes some constructive criticism, takes some feedback, and makes the changes that we all
Did you
desire.
notice that these are numbered like 1 through whatever, but the numbers are out of order?
That's
What
a
kind of
StreamYard thing.
It's a
psychopath
StreamYard thing.
did that?
Hey,
So what's
you know,
even funnier, I went through all the
Hmm?
trouble to upload those in the proper order, but due to the magic of
Mhm.
internet speed, when they finished uploading is the order that it took, not the order that I
Oh,
uploaded.
I believe
tell
that.
that hamster
Hey,
to
Abe,
run faster.
Abe, I have one question. I had a question on my antenna, and the guy, I guess he obviously does POTA. He wanted to know if we mount that thing like 5 or 6 feet in the air, so you know the end of it's up high, and then it slopes
The
down
vertical?
to like 6 feet. It was the 9-to-1 that I just the reel fish, the fishing reel, mounting it up higher. It should still work. I mean, that's what I told him. Like, it might. I don't know how the counterpoise would work. Do you need to extend that? That's what I was going to ask you.
I would
Well,
just
it would
have
be
the
an
counterpoise.
elevated.
Yeah, I would just have the counterpoise hang down just vertically,
Uh-huh.
so it's kind of like an inverted L. The challenge is he probably would have to retune that because the transformer is further away from the ground, but it would work.
I
Well, it's a
told him it
9-to-1,
would
so
work.
you just hit the tuner button, right?
Right.
What's that?
It's a 9-to-1, so
9
you
to
just hit the tuner button. You wouldn't change the length of the wire.
Yeah, right.
And I did.
So-
I was able to tune 80 to 6 on that thing, so that was pretty good.
So to help
It's
catch you
basically our
guys up to
Mercury,
what Chuck is
or our
talking about, Chuck has
Aries.
got a vertical antenna that he did that he put onto a fishing reel with a 9-to-1 unun on it. And the question was, if I put it higher in the air, what do I need to do? And the answer is hit the tune button and let the counterpoise dangle.
Yeah, and he was
It's all
talking about the end
angle,
of it,
the dangle.
just so people wouldn't run into it. That's a big thing at some of these parks. You know, you get out there and people walking by and they're walking all over your stuff, and that's what he was talking about. So
All
just
right, we
getting
got
high
some
enough for
housekeeping.
people. Go
Give it up,
ahead,
Jim.
If Chuck can breathe.
Gene.
Thank you, David.
Gene.
David
David.
Bruce Sr., thank you for the $10 super chat. We appreciate that, my friend.
I think most of the second chair was covering that because if you watch the fingers on that, the first chair wasn't doing much.
Wasn't doing anything. Right.
Thank you, David. We got some other
David,
news.
Thanks, David.
Well, we're not done, son.
Okay,
Hold your water. I don't want to let Chuck
Andy.
get on a roll again. And
Thanks,
Andy
AC.
Callie, member
We're
for
talking
19
antennas,
months.
dog.
Yeah, I
Awesome.
know, dog.
Andy's been a member for longer than 19 months.
I know. I don't know why it's showing that.
Maybe
Cars
this
have been
is the
around
last
longer than
19.
19 months.
This is the last 19 months.
Yeah. And Dave in Temecula. Dave, thank you. Appreciate
Merry
the
Christmas,
$20
Dave.
super chat. Merry Christmas to you, laddie.
And Merry Christmas to everybody, actually.
And God bless.
Don't forget the lead engineer, Raphael.
Raphael.
I know he scooched by. I missed that because it scrolled. Raphael has donated a $20
Real.
Brazilian real.
Real.
I had to think a second what they were. Thank you, Raphael. We are not judging on spelling. There are no points taken away for that. But thank you very much.
He does judge, believe me.
Spelled like a true. So I wonder if the value of the Brazilian real is different than the Qatari real.
They're
No.
spelled different for one.
Ah,
And I was unaware that I thought Brazil used the same currency as Portugal, but I was wrong. I
Just
did not
not.
know that.
So I
Vern,
went to the Philippines, and the Philippines uses pesos. And we were in the shop trying to look at buying some stuff. And I asked the guy with me, I was like, "What? Can you convert this real quick to dollars?" And what he gave me didn't make any sense. And he was doing Mexican pesos. And he's like, "Dude, I thought they used the Mexican peso." I was like, "Why would you?"
So
even think
it was
that?
different pesos. Because it said pesos.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's still pesos. Korea was interesting. That was won in Korea, and the exchange rate was.
I don't know one.
It took a while to
I don't know
figure out
won
how
either.
much stuff was. You asked how much something was, and they said that's 100,000 won, and it's like I don't know, $10 or something.
Thank you, Vern.
Thanks, Fern.
thank you very much.
Appreciate it,
Yeah,
Vern.
Vern's going to join us on Courtside this year, and so is T.O.
Yeah,
about
definitely. We're going to do a
don't know
courtside
if-
show like we do every year.
Yeah, I don't know if Kevin's making it or not. We're going to have to use your satellite that's set up down there because the internet's very bad.
Yeah, we'll get it all set up.
Don, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Don.
Don's correct.
You know, if you guys keep this up, we won't have to act like we know something. This is going to be awesome.
Right.
So
True,
I wanted
true,
to
true.
address this message from Andy. Andy had a bad day. He popped out shopping and he came back to the car and his antennas had been nicked off the car. That's
Oh my God.
crazy, Andy.
What neighborhood you live in, son?
That's
Apparently,
crazy.
a hamburglar neighborhood. Just
I
saying.
guess
have-
so.
I've always stood by this, and do not take legal advice from me. That's not where I'm going with this. But I don't worry about locking up my ham radio gear in my car unless I'm at a ham fest. That's a different story. But
Right.
I
True.
believe
You know,
that
them some
in,
bitches
Can't
are.
trust those guys.
in most scenarios, like if you're just in the Walmart parking lot and somebody reaches over and wants to look in your car to see if there's anything good, they're not going to know how to fence a ham radio. Nobody's going to want
If-
that, you know.
If
Right.
you're in a
Well,
Walmart, worry more
I came out
about
of
your
store.
CB antenna, your CB
Yeah.
stuff.
I came out of a store, and this guy was on my car like this, looking in the window. And I said, "Can I help you?" And he turned around and was like, "Oh, I was checking out your radio," because he saw the antenna. And
I bet he
it turns
was.
out that he claimed he was a ham.
Cool.
But I
what's your
told him
call
I was
sign,
in a
bro?
hurry. I said, "I'm in a hurry, son. You got to
Right.
chip chop."
Pull out your tactical pen. Did you?
Right. I
did
was
you-
like, "I don't
so-
want to do nothing. I don't want to do nothing, but I will. What you want?" And
Did you deploy your asp baton?
is that
Well,
my
you know,
USB
in
that's
Nebraska-
dinging like that?
It's
Can you
not
hear?
mine.
Can you guys hear?
I can hear
I
it.
hear
Yes.
I don't know what it is, but
In Nebraska, you don't have the
Son.
right to defend yourself. So, there's that.
no.
On
Well, I was gonna
Nebraska,
do some
there's no
karate.
paperwork
Whatever
after you do.
I was fixing to
So-
do some karate because like I'm a Taekwondo green belt, just so everybody knows. I earned that when
And
I
he
was
was a
like in
white
seventh-
belt the first night.
Yeah,
was
like
that
in seventh
good?
grade, I got a green belt. So I mean, I was going to do some karate work on him.
Exactly, man. Yeah, that's pretty messed up.
Gonna
I
foo his
cover my
tongue up.
radio up just so it's not out. And I mean, somebody can tell there's an antenna on top, right? But I always cover it with a more to protect the radio than anything else,
Keep the sun off.
but also to keep it out of sight.
Don't make me go full ape on you.
That's
There
right.
we go. Should have
His badge.
Son,
Let
I'd
me
like to
see your
credentials.
vest and your badge, sir.
Well, you know, if he was a real ham, he'd have a hat with his call sign on it.
So I got to tell you guys a story. Back when I was in the when I was still in the fire department, we had this guy. He acted like he was in the fire service and all this stuff. Always asking us questions and stuff. So the other day, I'm out there tuning antennas and testing and making a video and stuff. And this guy tries, "Hey, you a ham?" Yeah. And as I talked to this guy, I finally realized it's the same guy. He's telling me, "Oh, I'm the guy. I'm the chief of the such and such engine company and blah blah blah." I'm like, "Oh man, this is some BS." And then I finally realized who the guy was after he told me his name. I'm like, "Oh, I remember this guy." Kind of reminded me of somebody on this show sitting right below me.
Morton, thank you. Happy
Thanks,
Festivus
Morton.
to you. We will have
Kroners.
feats of strength and airing of grievances.
And some knocks.
That is
Was that
Kroners?
Swedish
Kroners.
pesos?
Norwegian
Yeah.
kroners. They're the same thing as the Swedish peso. That's right. Right.
Swedish peso.
See the second
Morton,
chair.
thank you very much.
Thanks, Morton.
Watch out. I know Tybo.
So we might be up to ape
Jeff,
now,
I
or was
pictured
that
him
ape's
standing
time?
in front of the mirror after he saw the Matrix when he was like a young ape. I know Kung Fu.
Nah, man, it was
I love that
Taekwondo,
show.
The Poison Fist.
It was a great movie.
As
Then they
fast as you
ruined it
can,
with the sequel.
grasshopper, snatch the pebble from my hand.
So I guess to kind of bring this back on topic, if I could be so bold, we're going to talk about some
What?
wire antennas.
I mean, it's
And,
only
you know-
13 minutes. We got another 40 minutes to kill if we want to keep up with Clubhouse, son.
Right. So
We've already
wire
talked
antenna,
about
I guess,
more ham radio.
what other
Just
kind of
saying.
antennas are there besides wire antennas? You have your tactical whips, and
Yep.
you have your loops, and you have a bunch of other things that aren't necessarily wire antennas. Yagis are not. Moxons are
Yagi
not
Udas.
wire antennas. You can make them out
Moxons
of
are
wire.
well, Moxons are kind
gutters.
of both, depending on the size.
Yeah.
What
They are
is
wire
a,
or
what
metal.
is a Moxon? Is it a Yagi-ish? Because
It's
it has
a wire.
directionality.
Though. Moxon's technically
It's a-
a wire antenna.
It's a wire beam, basically.
Slot antennas.
Oh,
There
yeah.
you
Slot. Yeah.
What
The
about
one
those
we're going to
tape,
talk about?
those copper tape antennas?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like the
that-
stuff
that
by
guy's
RC.
Which is
using the,
basically a J-pole design, right? If you use copper tape kind of thing.
Yeah, I think so.
Or
Yeah.
wire. Or just straight wire, I guess.
and the
I saw
material that
a,
Michael's using.
I was
Guys are
watching a
making
YouTube
antennas.
channel yesterday
Discount.
that is pretty interesting.
Mine?
Ham Radio Rookie.
Oh,
He's a Canuckian.
we
So he
won't hold
says
that against him.
a boot, and he likes his Timbits. But
10 bits.
he is all about playing around with some copper tape and making some weird 2-meter 440 antennas. It's kind of
Let's
interesting.
check him out. Maybe get him on
Is
the
that the
show.
same?
Well,
Is that
I
the
was
same-
already going there.
Is he the same guy that's making it out of the material that's metal? Also,
Yep, that's the guy.
same guy. Yeah.
VE3
Actually, Bill sent me that.
SFX or something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember his exact call
Card
sign.
antennas, right?
He's really into that stuff.
So
He's a
I
West
mean, I
Coast
guess
Canadian, so he might know Simon.
one of the questions
Oh.
I've always had is when you're dealing with a wire antenna, and you want to put one of those crazy Balun unun things on it, whichever one suits your fancy, and current or voltage, whichever one suits your fancy. How can you figure out? And I've asked Ape this question a lot, and I get the same stare that I give him in return. How can you figure out the ohmic resistance at the feed point so you know which Balun unun device to use? And then what we can talk about
Google.
Baluns and ununs in a future show. Yeah, I mean, but like somebody figured it out before Google, So like on a 49-1, we know it's 2,450 ohms at the feed point because magic, not like
Right.
what would you use to measure that?
Magic.
I suppose you could take the end of the wire and connect like a SMA adapter and connect that to your tiny or your nano VNA and look at the Smith and look at your Smith chart.
The Smith chart, yeah.
And it would tell you what the impedance is, right? Which is different than straight up ohmic resistance. So you would want to look at how. So when you think of impedance is really just AC current resistance. And then when you look at measuring with your multimeter, you're measuring DC current resistance. So with AC, the resistance reacts and changes with frequency. So you'd have to use something like a nano VNA or like a, God forbid, a rig expert. Rig expert tells you impedance measurements, right?
Yes.
Well, if you use Anscope, yeah.
No,
so you could.
No, it tells you on the thing.
Right on the screen? Cool.
You can pull up that measurement on the screen. Yes.
So
maybe not all of them though.
I had
the one I got, Chuck. Maybe the stick doesn't, but
I don't know.
I got the cheap one. I got the old.
I've
one.
only used the one that we built on the show a long time ago, and I don't even know where it is.
Jeff is right. An SWR meter will give you the overall antenna resistance. So if you look at your SWR meter and it says that you're 3-to-1 on your SWR, I mean, that's obviously 50 times 3 is 150 ohms at your feed point. And then you can run your tuner and tune that back out.
It's just math, right? Got to
mathy math.
But I think what you're asking is that how do you do that prior to putting an unknown or transformer or matchbox?
Yeah, I want to know what transformer to make. I mean, we make 9-to-1s with random wire antennas, and realistically, that 9-to-1, all it does is make it easier for your tuner to match the mismatched wire. It doesn't. It's probably not the right amount of conversion. You know, a 49-to-1 is the right amount of conversion. So you take an end-fed half-wave wire and you hook it up to a 49-to-1 unknown, and that turns it into 50 ohms for your radio. That's a match. That's perfect. But a 9-to-1 is a unknown amount of wire. I mean, it's known, but it's unknown. And then you convert whatever it happens to be from, by what is it, 450 on the 9-to-1?
450, yeah.
450, and then it may still be 150 ohms, which is 3-to-1 at the feed point at the connection to the radio, and then your radio's tuner can tune that to 50 ohms. So it's multiple levels of tuning, which some people, if they thought about that, would cringe, and other people are like, yeah, bring it on. This is what I need to get my mission accomplished.
Yeah, so I've got a 9-to-1 that is perfect 1-to-1 on 40 meters, but it's like 7-to-1 on 20 meters. So I just use the tuner to bring it in. And this is probably, a controversial statement. So when I cut a 9-to-1, I just cut it to whatever feet is on the chart, and I never go back and trim it or add or any of that stuff.
Don't fiddle with
it.
Right? Yeah,
never. And so I get a lot of folks who ask me questions, like and they slide into the DMs and ask questions about, well, I'm not getting a 1-to-1 match on this, and I'm like, you probably won't. Like,
it's made to tune.
You can use a 71 foot, for example, or you can use a 35.5 foot. Now, the 71 foot is going to perform better on lower bands than the 35 foot is, and the 35 foot is going to perform better on higher bands. But it really is like Tio was saying, just get it out, cut it, put it up, and then start playing, and then see if you got to do something else there. So when you use a tuner, you're really doing impedance transformation. One at the antenna feed point, which is good because it minimizes losses, but you're also doing it at the radio side, in order to get the efficient transfer out of the radio into the coax, and then from the coax and to use the unknown to get into the antenna.
So I need to speak to what Jason said real quick. He said, get a wire, and he put wire in quotes. So I know he pronounced it wrong. It's if you're from Baltimore, it's get a war, right?
I thought it was a reference to Ape's previous career when he lived in Baltimore, that he ran a corner.
Well, it did the work,
out slinging. Who knows?
He's talking about the TV show, The War.
Yeah,
that's what
so. What I was going to say, something pretty controversial again, is that so like what about speaker wire? Is friend or foe?
Oh, I love
speaker wire.
I love speaker wire. It's cheap.
Cut it once and tear it apart, and you're done.
I've had problems with the clear stuff when you pull it apart. It was old and it just raveled up, and I didn't like that.
Old.
But
was that from when you put the car stereo in your truck back in
my '67 Riviera?
There you go.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That was a cool.
That was a
really cool
Pitmobile,
car.
son.
It was.
Yeah,
that's
right.
It was fast.
A lot of times that stuff will be copper clad aluminum as well, which again you can use. It's not
now for radials. For radials and stuff, that's actually pretty good because it cuts your weight down, and it's not a ton, but it is. I weighed my version of the DX Commander, which I use copper clad for my radials, and the real DX Commander, and mine was just a little bit. It was lighter because the wire was nowhere near as good as the wire he sent me. But plenty good enough for ground radios, and the stuff
I
that
think I
Abe
got a
gets is
wire,
the
a
same
speaker
stuff I
wire
get.
one right here.
Oh, awesome. So while you're looking for that ape, our friend Tom, WA2IVD, says 3-to-1 SWR could be 150 ohms or 16.67 ohms. And that's because ratios are funny. So I guess technically it would be a 1-to-3, but we don't say that. That's bad math. That's bad scientifical pronunciation there. It's bad grammar. But he's absolutely correct. It could be the other direction. And if you've got a good tuner, it can get both of those and match it in either direction. Yeah.
With speaker wire, the one thing about it is that it's not UV protected, and I'm sure someone's going to be like, so and so says UV protect, but so that can be a challenge for you if you're going to put an antenna up and leave it up outside. The other thing is, I do speaker wire all the time. It can get hot in the summer and stuff like that, and even in the winter, I guess it'll stretch, so you'll have to go out and you'll have to retune.
It's not the greatest wire for your long wire stuff. Now, David Bruce, I actually did do this, and we kind of decided not to do it only because it's not a great portable antenna.
It's messy. It works.
It's messy. And if you got a field that's nothing in the way, it works great. And I did do it, and it worked. I mean, they're great antennas. Because you're basically, once you get it tuned, and I had it all figured out with our wire, but once you get it tuned, it's a switch band to band to band, and you got a dipole, and that's about as good as you get for wire. So,
yep. And our winder will work great
antenna
for that. It's just hard to wrap all that up and all the spreaders and everything else that goes on there. Tim's got a question for us. Tim says, what is the difference between a quarter, a half, and a 5/8 wavelength antenna? Well, obviously, one is a quarter wave longer than the other, and then one is, I mean, that's just simple math right there, son.
And he's talking verticals, right?
Right, do the math.
Mainly.
Yeah. I mean, it really comes down to the amount of gain. I mean, more wire in the air is usually better. And I read this a long time ago, so I'm not going to remember it 100%, but there's something about the wavelength itself. And if you can go a quarter of a wavelength, then the rest of the wavelength is going to work out for you. And if you can go half of a wavelength, then the rest of it's going to work out for you. But if you go a full wavelength on each side, somehow it cancels itself out. I'm grossly paraphrasing that. So,
Well, no, you're right. You're right on it. So like it also changes the way that the current runs on the antenna wire itself. So a lot of people say a 5/8 wavelength vertical has a better lower takeoff angle because you have a fatter current at the bottom of the antenna than you do on a quarter wavelength. It also does some math when you start to play with the harmonics of other frequencies when you're looking at multi-banded antennas and stuff like that.
And I know on half waves, like for your 2 meter and stuff like that, they say they don't need a ground plane so much. So you might get away with. I know it's crazy talk. I know.
We've done a lot of math on this.
Take my life into my own hands when I bring this around to 8, but that is the word on a half wave. But half wave, I mean, you start getting into 40, 40 or 80. That's a big antenna for vertical.
Yeah, and so Chris has got a good question, and it is a weird one for sure. The magic carpet. This is the window screen, or they actually do make what's called Faraday cloth, which is the latest rage.
Right.
Can you radiate with it? Yes. Can you use it to shape the radiation pattern? Yes. Do you want to do this? That's what this is all about. So, I mean, I guess the answer might be yes for you. It might be no for some others. And that's perfectly okay. Like I welcome the experimentation and the fun. And we say this a lot. And I was going to say this in reference to the last, the quarter, half, and 5/8 question. Get a wire in the air. And when you
see what happens.
You may be able to put up a 5/8 wave antenna and enjoy the magic of that antenna, or you may not be able to, and you might only be able to get a quarter wave up, and it's not going to stop you from making contacts. What it will do is it will stop you from making that highly specific contact, like Jim trying to reach Joe Brett, Alabama to Mississippi, which is a very close regional contact on a properly tuned and elevated and pointed 40-meter beam antenna on a nice high tower. Like Jim could spend thousands of dollars getting that tower erected and getting the perfect beam in the air, and cannot contact Joe Brett because that's kind of how physics works. So all of this is physics, and all of it is really, really highly relative to where you personally are on the planet.
You mentioned the Faraday cloth, which is interesting. And again, going back to Ham Radio Rookie, apparently he's on fire for making 2-meter antennas. So there's also a thing called Faraday tape, and he made a roll-up cloth J-pole antenna.
Nice.
I mean, it and as far as weight, it's going to weigh almost nothing. And it's the videos on his channel, and I'm going to contact him and get him on our show because he is fired up and he's doing a lot of cool stuff.
He's a little like Simon, huh? Only not quite as.
No, he just lives close to Simon. They may not even know each other, Chuck. No, he's not. He's not like Simon's level.
No, he's excited about what he's doing, though. You can tell.
Right.
That's what I'm
Well,
saying.
I think Simon has too much coffee and Timbits in the morning some days.
I don't know what Simon's taking.
Yeah, he's taking something. I don't know.
It's just a lot of sugar.
I don't know if it's street legal.
But yeah, there's Faraday tape, and he literally made a roll up 2-meter 440 J pole with some stupid awesome SWR on it.
Nice.
And
so Gary brings up the doublet, and Gary's the one that got me to put up a doublet. And doublet is a great antenna. The only problem I see with the doublet, and you can kind of get around it, is if you want to switch bands real fast. Now, what I do, and it changes with the rain because of the I'm used to 300 ohm, and it's a little more susceptible to rain.
Yeah.
But I usually set somewhere in the middle of the bands, and I write down all my numbers, so I can pretty fast. I need to go back through them because things have changed here as far as when I first did that. So you can go back and forth, unless you use I don't use an automatic tuner. I use a manual tuner.
Right.
But if you use an auto tuner, it's probably not a big deal as long as it'll tune it.
Right.
It's
my
just
favorite
when
thing
you
about
when you
doublet.
when you run 1,000 watts through something, dude, you want it to make sure it stays there. That's all I'm saying.
My favorite thing about the doublet is when you hear these salty hams. They're like, I only use resonant antennas. Oh, I use a doublet.
Right.
Oh, I love the doublet. It's like the doublet's the best antenna ever. Thought you only used resonant antennas, but the doublet is the best. Like, okay, I get it. I get it.
And we've thought about bringing the doublet out also. And the only thing with that is the ladder line is you can do. I've done one without ladder line. Basically, it's the
homebrew ladder line.
Yeah, it's just home. I just used the regular wire. You don't get the separation. And now I separate it, and I noticed no difference, and it just made it hard to wind up. But it still works.
The thing is, it changes the resistance value, right? Or the impedance value of the transmission line when you use ladder or window or homebrew or whatever. And then when you do that, all your measurements go out the window, right? Because a lot of the measurements, like if you look at a G5 RV, everybody's going, it's not doublet. But if you look at an antenna like that uses ladder line, it has the design specs that you'll see on that are for that particular ohmic resistance of wire.
Yep.
Right.
We got a statement here from Chris, not really a question. I'm gonna modify this a bit. He says MMA time, which means fight. NFET half wave, choke at the feed end with radials or the transceiver end. And he put with radials in there. Son, got to be using a counterpoise, man.
We always say choke at both ends of the transmission line.
Yeah,
and if you're running super long transmission line, sometimes you want to put one in the middle as well.
I'd say at minimum, I'd do it at the antenna.
That has a lot to do with the length. I mean, if you actually really want to get into the weeds with NFET half waves, you want to use a specific length of coax, specific length of transmission line, because of the coax itself has its own 50 ohm resistance built into it, and it will convert your antenna's signal to a different ohmic resistance depending on where you are, where you cut the cable and splice it into your radio. So fun stuff.
Yeah, people look at the voltage and the current values of coax along the transmission line, and what you want to do is get it at a low voltage as it's feeding into, I believe it's right. I'm sure Raphael helped me out. As it feeds into your unun or your transformer, your balun or anything like that. So a lot of people are, hey, the coaxial cable needs to be a half wavelength in length of the frequency that you're operating on. That's a lot of work. Right. And you can have success without doing that. But if you have time and you're looking to optimize and you're running a contest station and you got a lot of money on the table, then maybe you want to do that. But I wouldn't bother with it.
Yeah. I mean, for a fixed station at home where I've got plenty of time, definitely.
Right.
Don says, I find it strange when many ham operators make fun of those who experiment. Isn't that part of our hobby? Yes. Yes, it is.
People must make fun of me all the time.
Point Don makes a great point, and we're as hams, we're terrible about that. And it seems like there's a certain demographic that's worse about it than others. But you know, if it's not the same thing we've been doing for 50 years, it can't be good. Like manual tuners versus automatic tuners.
Well, I think where some of it comes in, like I don't need to taste the AIDS virus to determine if it's bitter, right? Like I know that it's something
that is a very weird analogy, but okay.
But the thing is that there are some experiments that people should be doing and playing around with, and there's others that they probably shouldn't, right? So in some cases, you do see people doing experiments for things that don't make any sense at all, right? And or maybe it's something that's even been proven to not be a good idea. So that's where some of that comes from. But people, the hams, will take that way, way, way too far. Like we were talking about the magic carpet that folks were saying in there. Personally, I'm never going to set up a magic carpet antenna. Or I get it's a fad, and I get that it works, and people have fun with it, and that is awesome. And I love seeing people experiment with things like that. But I'd never be critical of somebody for doing that. But other people might say, "Well, that's a bad idea," and these are the reasons why. And I think you just want to go out and have fun and remember that any antenna is better than no antenna, right?
Right. Well, and I was going to ask you, why do you think it's not a great idea? And I'm asking just because I'm curious, not to like cause controversy on the show.
Well, we talked a little bit about it when Michael was on here. So I think it does work to capacitively couple your vertical antenna to the ground. I'm more concerned about ground reflectivity and ground absorption from a lack of a good ground plane, like because I have poor soil or something like that. So I'm going to use a radio plane like you do with the DX Commander. Shout out to Callum in the chat. And
hey, Callum.
I want to maximize my reflectivity off of the ground and get a better takeoff angle, which the magic carpet doesn't provide. But that doesn't mean it doesn't work. It doesn't mean it doesn't have a place or anything like that. It's just not something that I wouldn't go spend the money on the screen. I guess that's
the screen's expensive.
Well, it goes back to what Steve said.
And wrap it up one more level. Many people laughed at Einstein, Tesla, and others. They weren't wrong, were they? Well, see, here's the thing about those guys. They were wrong until they were right. I mean, Einstein has been credited as creating the light bulb. And he didn't only create the light bulb. He also created 999 versions that were not light bulbs until he finally got it right.
It blowed up.
Well, so people are wrong until somebody. I mean, people are right until somebody does it better too, right? There's always incremental improvement.
Remember
the other day. The other day I watched. Let me just get the Callum's here. So the other day I watched one of Callum's videos, and he did sorry, Jim. He did I think it was 10 meters. I forget how many meters. He put just a long wire, infed wire for listening, and he put it about. Well, it was varied heights. Sometimes it went over a tree. Sometimes it's just on the fence. But he used a 6401, and it was pretty amazing. It was super quiet when he was doing his regular antenna, the DX Commander, and that one. But I'm wondering, I was going to talk to Abe about this. Would a 9-to-1 be better? Because he was tuning it also. I would think maybe the 9-to-1. You have to watch that video. I'm thinking about doing it, but I'm thinking about throwing a 9-to-1 on it just because you can probably tune it pretty much anywhere. And it was
about knowing what the resistance is at the connection point.
Right.
Then you know whether you need one or not. But it's easier just to build a 9-to-1 and put it on and see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there should be a 9-to-1. That should be on the 9-to-1 length chart.
Yeah.
Or you could extrapolate
I would actually.
It's not supposed to be resonant at any frequency, right?
Right. I would just pull a length. I think I might do that here for an experiment, just to listen. I don't have a lot of noise here, but his worked really well. And it wasn't so much that the signal was stronger all the time, but it was quieter, so it was easier to hear. And I've done that before with my doublet and a vertical, like when I had the DX Commander up all the time. The noise on one of them was usually better than the other for hearing people. If that makes sense to you guys.
Yep.
When you have two antennas you can compare, sometimes I would listen on the vertical, sometimes I would listen on the doublet, depending on who I was listening to and how much or what type. I guess it's what type of noise I had that day or night. It was like super early in the morning usually. So
before people got their coffee makers and are starting to play their cell phone games and stuff.
Jaron Tilson, no, you need an NOVNA if you're going to build your antennas. The Tiny SA is for RF signals for frequency, and you need a VNA to do the vector network stuff for antennas.
Well, you want to measure reflectivity,
and SWR and all that with your antenna building. And if you're going to get a tiny SA, you're going to look at the RF output of your radio or stuff like that. Filter characterization, so on and so forth.
Hamtil Hertz is saying he wants to try the butterfly terminated folded dipole. I think that antenna uses like a 400 ohm resistor that has to be a super high value non-inductive resistor. I'd love to try one of these too. I haven't been able to find an affordable one in stock that I could use. So if you do find the resistor, I'd love to see where you're getting it from.
Whoa.
Oh, that one's
This
got
is a
1,000 ohm.
diagram of what it looks like.
Which one's this? Oh, the butterfly.
Yeah.
Broadband butterfly
That's interesting.
terminated dipole antenna. So that's interesting. It's a pattern of how you string the wire out. 50 ohm coaxial cable to the radio, any length, and then a 1,000 ohm resistor at the end. The 1,000 ohm resistor is probably just to get it to have a connection point to make the butterfly shape and specifically not send signals from both halves
The
of
other
dipole
direction,
to each
right.
other. Yeah, it's probably more like you would consider a diode to be.
Well, that's what a beverage antenna does. You use a resistor at the end of it.
Yeah. They're similar. Well, because a beverage is just a big rectangle, right?
I think it's just a long wire, isn't it?
It's just a long wire, yeah.
Or it can be whatever I think probably be whatever you want, but
length is the ridiculous amounts of length is the beverage.
yeah,
antenna
you just want it
segment.
super long.
So I mean, I'm kind of wondering why you would have a resistor there instead of just open-ended wire.
I haven't done enough reading
the
on it,
part
but
that-
I believe that these are multi-banded, right?
Yeah, you don't tune. You usually don't tune that.
Yeah.
It just hears because it's so much.
What's
wire.
it say down? What's it say down there below it?
Lots of words.
It's early
Raphael
for
says
reading
There it
that
is.
the resistor limits the maximum SWR.
But a 1,000 ohm resistor
Well, there it is.
recommended for best SWR over the entire HF range. The resistor should be rated at the full transmitter power, fed with 50 ohm coax. A tuner is not needed. So if you had a 100, I guess you have to figure out the math on that.
So
Well, the
they're
next
talking about
paragraph
a TX
talks about it.
antenna
Yes.
because a beverage antenna is just a listening antenna usually, as far as I know.
For best SWR, the optimum value of termination resistor is 1,000 ohms. The value of resistor is not very critical. So the best is 1,000. However, it's not critical. Let's just contradict ourselves. Any value between 800 and 1,200 may be utilized. The value of 800 works well for HF ham radio bands. 800 ohms is a commonly available resistor. The following graph shows the computed SWR curve, prototype testing, etc.
Yeah, a lot of people use these like on their the roof of their house.
That's actually a good way to mount that. I thought it would be horizontal, but it's not. It's vertical.
Yeah.
But that's a transmit antenna too, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I like
That's
that
a new
idea.
one.
I like that layout. So that's a way to get a 40-meter dipole in the air in a compromised space. Every antenna that antenna.
Joe Brett, I'm in grieving for Molson leaving Clubhouse, so this is in homage to our Canuckian buddy.
Speaking of which, have you seen Molson's application? He sent it to our email account.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
under review
Really?
right now. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I was checking it out last night. I fell asleep
I'm
though
right
while
here.
I was reading
I'm
it.
right here. I mean, I know, right?
Why did you think that was directed at you?
Yeah, maybe we're just
You're
gonna
not
have
getting
a
rid of
fifth
Chuck.
guy.
Wow. Well, I mean that's true. I guess you have a point there.
Chuck does all the work in this operation.
I got to tell you, I was nervous
lot of
when Jim's.
I think
been
we
doing a
could
lot of
use
work.
less senior management, possibly.
No,
But
no.
I'm
This
just
is
saying.
kind of little.
I was nervous the
overweighted
other
up there.
day when you were working on that power supply. I was
You and me
texting Gio.
both,
I was like, dude, that cap's got a lot of juice in it. I hope nothing happens to him. He's got
And then he
all
went
of our.
silent.
I was like, he's got all of our stickers and tumblers. I don't know how we're going to get those back in the event.
And then about 8 hours, I go, "Has anybody heard from Jim?" And Tio's like, "Not since he said he was going into the
doctor's
radio
office.
into the and then, oh yeah, the doctor's office too. Yes, which didn't happen. He says.
Jim's out in the car smoking a cigarette. Whew. Thanks, Doc.
No, I did not get that. Thankfully, I'm not.
Well, that's why you were
disappointed.
doing it. Yeah.
I
Cal's
think that was
outta
all
here.
the questions that I had starred. Let me go back. Yeah,
Bring
that's
on
all
some
the
more
starred.
questions.
James Whitehead's got an interesting. Oops, I just put
That's
that
fine.
over
That's
somebody.
You know, I tried to catch Cal's when he's DXing the US and stuff. and I didn't realize it was Friday, so I think, oh, I'll check it out Friday. Well, it was super early in the morning before Friday for me, so I guess he's a little bit ahead. Because I'm going to get a Callum one of these days, but it's going to have to be on 20 or something, 20 or 10 or something. Cause
Yeah, Callum doesn't like to work 20.
he does, and for some reason he's working in the general band now. I don't know if their coverage changed or something.
It might have.
Yeah, James, I would try it. The one thing
Absolutely.
that you could do is once you get your antenna up, I've got a video on how to do it. Use an NOVNA to determine the impedance ratio for the vertical, and then add an LC match at the bottom of it for the frequency that you want to operate on. Because when you elevate a vertical off the ground, your ground plane becomes basically a tuned element. And so that roof might not be exactly what you're looking for. So you may have to do some manipulation of the impedance to get that to
I'm
work.
going to argue with you on that. And I'm much love and much respect. The vertical mounted on the roof and the roof being all metal, I would say that it's no longer elevated. You have now forced a ground plane under that antenna.
Yeah, I haven't done it,
right
so I don't know. Use the roof for the counterpoise. Yeah, I would just. So you could tune the length of the vertical to get your impedance right, but I'm of the mindset that if you have it up and it's there and it's off, just add an LC match. That's the way that the boys used to do it back in the day. But
God, 10 meter
plenty of
would
people
be
do it
like
and say it works fine.
perfect. Throw that A99 up there for 10.
Here we go. Drama. Boom.
I like the buddy pole. It is a high Q antenna, and I would recommend that you get it tuned at, I don't know, 1.7, 1.8 to 1 at eye level. And then as you raise it up, it's going to get a better match. It's going to get closer to 1 the farther away from the ground that it gets. And then operate for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. I wouldn't consider it a band agile antenna. You can change bands with it, but you have to lower it back down. You have to change the length of the whips. You have to move the inductance taps on the coils and then put it back up again. So it's work, but it's definitely, I like the fact that it compacts down into a nice small carrying case. I think it's a fantastic engineered piece of kit. But again, I would do it one band for as long as I could until I got tired of it.
Yeah, they're expensive too. That's the only thing I don't like about them. Is that
It's a pretty quality unit, though.
Oh, for sure.
You're getting the tripod, you're getting the mast, you're getting the inductive taps, the inductive coils, you're getting the arm extenders, you're getting the Versatee, and it's made in America, so it costs more. So there is the JPC. I want to say the JPC 12 or the JPC 7 is a mock antenna of that same design.
There were some cool things about that one too. The way they changed a couple things on that one, right? And the way
they changed how you tap the inductors. Yeah, so it's not floating wire. It's this sliding.
And I'm not hating on it, but the antenna that Chuck's really done a fantastic job putting a lot of work in testing the vertical that we're looking at putting out.
Yeah, that's
going to change it because it's the vertical is short, so you can put it up with a single mast. It doesn't need to be some 35-foot, 40-foot mast or anything like that.
Just 10-meter mast is perfect.
Yeah, you can put it up in minutes, and you'll be able to get everything you need to do it for probably around $100. Right, that's the antenna and the mast. And it's multi-band. It's multi-band
on the mast.
Yeah.
The thing it does, and it's probably, and if you want to do better on the lower bands, you could add wire to it.
Dang, Andy Callie, that's a pain in the mast, son.
He folding some paper.
Nice.
British money
600 quid.
Paper, right?
Wow.
I hope you got insurance. I hope you ain't having to pay for all that out of pocket. Skeeving sons of guns.
So Tim is correct. The buddy pole versus a Wolf River coil vertical. The Wolf River coil vertical is going to be a lot easier because you don't have to lower it down in order to make your adjustment. You can just go over and move the collar.
So I've been trying to track Tim down, and he doesn't have a published email address anywhere. So, do any of you know how to get a hold of him?
Right here.
I just asked the Amazon device where he's currently at.
Yeah, I guess if I could look him up on QRZ or something. I want to get him on the show. He's definitely an antenna guru type guy.
Who's that?
Tim.
Who's that?
G5
Oh,
Tim.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Tim. I thought you were talking about Gray Man.
It's on his QRZ.
No. I don't want to spend more time on Gray Man.
Thank you. I didn't either.
So,
Gray ape.
But that's
This
why
is-
I made this Amazon device comment was get him all freaked out.
this is
He's
kind of
in
an
his house right
interesting
now
one.
smashing things.
Don asking phasing harness. We're going to have Ape's going to make the phasing harnesses.
I don't know
He's
about
smarter
that.
than I am. But
I don't know.
I'm wondering how we may have to try one out with our vertical and see if it works. I don't know how.
With two of them, they used to face together.
Yeah, I don't know, because I know the DX Commander doesn't really work because you have multiple wires, but ours is a single wire. And I don't know that it won't work, at least on one band, but on the DX Commander. But that would be interesting.
Oh, Lord.
Anytime you can get a little more oomph out of your antenna, it's great.
I listen. There's lots of costs that go into engineering, and like a lot of companies pass that on. And then when they have the materials that they use, right? So some folks might use more expensive materials, and that would drive the cost of the antennas up. But what I am going to say is that most of the antennas that you see on the market, especially the tactical antennas, are, in my opinion, grossly overpriced.
Well, the tactical comes because they sell it to the military. So once they sell it to the military, they can't sell it to you at a reasonable price, right?
Yeah,
This
the
is
government doesn't
military
like it.
spec. Mil spec. This is a mil spec antenna. Well,
Yeah,
one
we
difference
tried-
is the components. I mean, that's
We're going to
that's a
give
huge
ours to the
difference, too.
military.
Yeah. We tried to have our antennas available in regular retail outlets, and it turns out that there's not any margin in it for them, so they don't want to stock it.
Yeah.
So that's why we
We
sell
talked
direct
to
and
one of the
pass
we
the
talked to
savings
like
on to you.
the biggest place out there, and they were like, it would like almost double the cost of our antenna. So
Yeah,
we're
it was
like,
ridiculous.
forget
It was
that.
a lot. It was
Lon,
a lot. to
nobody
put.
else knows what tactical means anymore either. You're not alone.
That's right.
I think it means 40% markup. I don't
That's-
know.
Yeah.
It usually requires like some kind of molly straps or pals webbing, lots of pockets.
Correct.
Usually like a flat dark earth color, like maybe a brown or a green in color, maybe some camo if you're really on the outliers there.
I mean, we're all pretty tactical this morning. I've got black on. Chuck is olive drab. Ape's got his
Man.
Maxpedition
got
hat.
patches.
Steve's,
Right.
we also pimping tactical morale patches with our call sign. So
Yeah.
But look at that. Well, I don't know. I don't know what I was going to say.
I hate
Why
wearing
was it?
hats.
The other
Don?
thing is that the assembly,
perfect.
right? So, like, if you buy a pre-built antenna, there's assembly that takes place there too, and that rises the price.
It
One of the
does.
reasons that our kit is cheaper is because it is you roll your own, right? You got to put it together.
Assembly is required. That's right.
But that's what makes it fun too. And you can also do some modifications. We've seen some pretty interesting modifications.
Well,
So we
that's
have-
exactly what I was going to say. It goes to the mission that you're trying to achieve.
Well, Dan in San
You
Diego,
wanna build a kit.
he does all kinds of stuff with them, right?
Right.
Right.
And
Well, same
it's not
thing
like
with
you can't change
Hamstick.
out parts. If you
Right.
don't like the wire in the kit and you want more wire, or you want to convert your end fed to a 9-to-1, rock on.
Well,
Well,
like
Hamstick
if you,
asked me right away. He goes, "Hey, Chuck, where do you guys get the little clips that you're using for your Mercury?" Because Hamstick, he likes to do all the bands. He wanted to put more. We set it to what 3 or 4 bands,
Yeah.
and he wanted to put extra ones in, which you can do. You just have to have the clips, and if you want clips, if you guys do buy a Mercury, and if I don't have it already wrapped up, I'll throw a couple clips in for you if you want to do. It takes 2 per band.
Look at Chuck, he's so generous.
we
You
love
didn't
everybody.
discuss that
Don.
with
What's that?
You didn't discuss that with management, Chuck. That's coming out of your cut.
Okay.
Right. Somebody's got to pay.
These guys make me buy the wire when I make my own antennas for testing.
We do. It ain't
I
proven
think you
till
need
it's
to
actually-
renegotiate your contract.
Actually, I used to get like the cutoffs
would
and just
buy
use the
wire.
cutoffs. I'll solder them together, for an antenna, and I'd always print my own winder, and then it's like, the winder doesn't look right, so usually I'll put it on a winder before I try to put it out there. At least
Can you
now
talk a
we-
little bit, Chuck,
we have
about
them.
so when you built the fishing reel, you went with the poly stealth versus the
I did-
wire that we typically use, right?
I did because when I ordered the reel was smaller than I thought it was going to be, and I was trying to really get an in-fed half wave, and even with that Poly Stealth 26, I couldn't get 60 feet of wire on there. So I went with a 9-to-1. And the only thing I have when you're hunting and you have to tune an antenna, I feel really bad. I'll try to like go off so that where there's nobody, and I'll tune there and then go back and try to get the guy, but it's never right? It's always a little off. That's why I like the end-fed half-wave better, because I can just switch to the band and do it. But if you want to tune different bands or you want a shorter antenna, the 9-to-1's better. And I have to tell you, the ears in that thing the other night were really good. I got some guy in South Africa, and I couldn't get him. And he couldn't hear there's a bunch of people calling the guy. I don't think he was hearing. I think he was putting out more power than he could hear. That's what Callum talks about. Don't put out so much power that you can't hear that weak station,
Right.
So,
Caleb.
but yeah, I did use the poly stealth. I'm not a big I like the poly stuff. If you're going to put poly stealth up at your house, it's great. But if you're winding it every time to go out, I don't like it for that. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Caleb's asking a question about using his rain gutters and antenna and any benefits to isolating the downspouts from the gutters themselves. I'd put an isolation at the end, at the bottom of the downspout where you connect your coax, so that way you stop any common mode current that's coming on your transmission line. But one of the things that's unique about the gutter antennas is that they're relatively low, right? So you're going to get a more omnidirectional radiation pattern off of those, but you have a house on one side, which might cause you a little bit of drama in terms of your radiation pattern. If you don't isolate the downspout itself will act as an element as well. And because it's not really a finely tuned antenna or anything like that, I would take advantage of using the downspout as an element, because I think that it's probably going to give you a better radiation pattern. Now, it might be directional because of the house, and you might have metal in the house right there, like electric wire or something like that running up there to cause some coupling, but I wouldn't do it.
Merry Christmas, Raphael. See you, buddy.
Later,
so there's a couple of ways that you can do that. Ape's spot on with what he's talking about. Measure your rain gutters horizontally and see where they fall. Measure your downspouts vertically and see where they fall, and then design your antenna with those numbers in mind. So if horizontal plus vertical makes an inverted L for 40 meters, then you've got a 40-meter antenna. It might be Nevis, like we talked about the other day, but that's still better than not having one. If the measurements of the horizontal and the vertical side make it a end-fed half-wave with a counterpoise or a end-fed random wire with a counterpoise, then you know what you need to do at that corner there. Isolate the two from each other, put the appropriate on in, and have fun with it. So it really just depends on what type of lengths you're working with, and the tape measures your friend there. Fantastic experiment.
Maybe try feeding it with some ladder line too, and see for tuning it. See how that works. That might be a good way to go. My house it's all gutters when I have gutters up. I don't have it right now, but
you take them up and down.
It would be
like
no
Christmas lights.
I took them down for my painter, and then I was going to have them redone.
We don't have gutters. We can't afford that.
I don't. There's the for and the against on gutters, and I'm just my overhang's far enough away from my foundation. I don't really worry about it. But if you're gonna, you may have to tune it. So I would maybe try ladder line
right there
with the inverted squiggle.
No, the overhang.
The overhang.
He's talking about his belly, not his radiating element.
It was still funny.
Oh no, I wasn't.
It was still funny.
I can still see it.
Okay.
Well, so this is the Shorty 40, and I made this antenna to be an antenna that I left up outside all the time. So I used poly stealth for it, but you can see that the poly stealth doesn't wind right. Like this is an old car antenna, but still use it because it works fine. But this stuff, like you can see that it gets this memory in the wire. I try not to wrap it tight on here, but I've been taking this thing using it a lot more, not at the home, because it's so short and easy to use, and it's got some erosion on the enamel coated wire. So I'll probably have to make another one of these. And when I do, I'll make it with the B&Teco wire that we use.
Ape and I experimented with a more portable one like that, and we just never finished it. I was making it out of way more friendly stuff for hanging than that one.
Yeah.
I have to play with that again someday.
We had an interesting question, Ape, and I think we've already kind of covered this, but Dave was asking about his loading up the wrought iron fence in the backyard. That's all grounded, right?
It ain't going to hurt to try, but I don't know.
Give it a shot. I mean, you could use it as a counterpoise.
Right.
But I assume the wrought iron fence is in the ground and it's all conductive, so.
I'd put a whip on it and that's isolated from the fence, and then use the fence as the ground.
As a
I've heard
bitchin'
people
radio.
using. I've heard people using their chain link fence for ground, but I've also heard that in wind and stuff, when it moves, it can make noise in your signals. But I don't know. I never tried it.
Yeah, I don't know. We have a metal fence out back that I've thought about using as a ground before, but I just never done it.
Joe Brett, you're right.
As long as the
Either way,
dog
you
doesn't
gain
go
some
over,
knowledge.
Well,
the dog doesn't go over and pee on the fence and get electrocuted.
Somebody did do that. Somebody did
neighbor's
that not
dog,
too long
you're
ago. Somebody went and hooked up a fence. I think it was a young lady that did that. I don't remember who it was, but they hooked up like a KX2 to it and tuned the fence, and it worked.
Yep. Joe Brett is spot on. Try. It either does or it don't. I mean,
Right.
and
When
you
we
might
did
learn
that,
something.
we did that night for Willet Antenna Night for everybody was doing videos and stuff. I took my KX2 and went around and hooked it to anything that was metal in my backyard. And guess what? It worked on. I mean, it all worked. It wasn't the greatest sometimes, but that thing would tune anything. But I ended up making that rake antenna, which actually worked really well. I'm coming back to that one of these days. It's kind of like the chameleon thing that me and Tio did.
I think Steve is
wide.
gone. Steve's
I
not
think
with
he
us
is too.
anymore.
He's got
Or
that.
it's really good. at
Elon
holding
Musk
still.
internet going on over there.
Right.
I hope that stuff works better when we're in
Poor Steve.
Arizona. 'Cause that may be what
Don't
we're
count
using.
on it. There he is.
You want it to be a lot of no trees and stuff like that. Obstruction.
Well, there's no trees there. There's a few, but they're not tall enough to mess up his Elon Musk stuff. I think he's gone again. Look at that.
At least it's a good shot. He's not in the
Dang.
middle of coughing or sneezing or something like that.
I don't know.
There you go. Joe Brett's got it.
Right? Don't touch it.
I've had good and bad trying to work out of hotels. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Usually they
did
don't
not
have
use
any
my
windows
fence.
that open now. You
I
didn't?
never did.
Did you know you were gone, right?
Yeah.
Somebody was saying it was Gaston that tuned up his fence.
He might have, yeah. He's all
Well,
about
Burn
doing
Six.
stuff
Burn
out.
Six has done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that.
I'll
Just
start
don't lean
looking
on that
stuff up.
fence.
Well, you know, so we have cattle all around, and the fence is pretty close to the house. I'm thinking I could load up the barbed wire fence because I don't care if the cows lean against the fence.
They'll
They don't
only
like
do
it
once.
anyway.
Chuck, you did it.
Twice.
You did this, right? You set up a cubicle quad.
Oh yeah, cubicle quads they're just hard to get up. The cubicle quads supposedly the room the word is it opens the bands and closes the bands. They're like one of the best antennas out there, but they're just not the. I'm thinking about building one of these days, but I'm going to weld up everything so it's nice and strong.
You did
And,
was your 6 meters? You did a 6 meter one?
It was 2 meter. I think it was 2 meter. 2 meter. It was 2 meter because it was too small for 6. I still have it out there. It's been sitting outside for a while. It's still going good. Well, I broke one of the wires on it, but I think maybe I'll do one. I won't have it. I can't get it ready for Quartz Fest. I was asking Steve what he wanted me to bring to Quartz Fest. I've got my hex beam kind of dialed in this year. Last year it was just, Jason making fun of it. I'm like, dude, I just built this thing yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
TO is fully SSTV this morning. That's right.
He's doing some testing over there.
I
Right.
don't know
He's
what's going
using
on.
all of his bandwidth.
Oh,
Fine
Hannibal.
until it's not.
About time you showed up. Show's almost over, son.
He just came too. He's probably
It's early
he was
here,
probably
man.
drinking
I
that
mean,
liquor
Thump
last
was
night.
here when the show started, which like in
That
Thump's
surprised the
world
heck
is-
out of me.
He probably
way-
fell asleep. He probably fell
I
asleep
mean-
in his chair.
That may
Thump,
be it.
yeah,
When
he's
we
already
came on the
asleep.
TV, it woke him up.
Thump probably loaded that last night.
He's like, Thump is a
first.
little up a lot early this morning.
Thump was texting me from the family Christmas party last night. He
Oh,
had
was he?
to,
Oh, okay.
He had to go to the family Christmas party.
He
And
was
you know
still
how
up
he is.
then, maybe.
He doesn't like to leave the house. So he's like, Jim. Right. So I knew that he was not in his comfort zone.
So Douglas V is asking about Faraday cage made out of aluminum. It doesn't really matter what kind of wire you make it out of. What matters is the aperture of the holes in the wire.
Wavelength.
And if you had a set of cross wire cloth made out of wire that was a quarter wavelength on 2 meters, for example, your 2 meter signal would pretty much go through that wire cloth very easily, and it would not Faraday anything. So it really just depends on the frequency that you're using and what your goal is. And I guess the short answer is yes, it would work just fine if you built it right.
I'm not one of these guys who builds a Faraday cage and keeps stuff in there. I know that people are like, oh my gosh, that's not what are you going to do? There's so many things that you would need to put into the Faraday cage in order to be able to be successful. Like, are you going to put your battery in there because the BMS is in your battery? Or are you going to put your inverters in?
You need a Faraday garage, right?
Yeah.
A Faraday garage.
Right.
Well, and then based on what you're doing it for, you really can't use that stuff. So
you have to put it away.
You got to put it in the Faraday cage, and it's like, whatever. If the big one happens, I'm going to walk out and embrace the sunshine and be done with it. I'm just
I was watching a thing on the TV, and they were saying that if we do get hit by a big EMP like North America, it's that decades to recover from it because the grid is going to be
grid down.
Yeah, it's going to be smoked, right? And it's almost every electronic component around. So even if you do successfully get everything into a Faraday cage and then erect your station after the EMP, how many people are you really going to be able to communicate with anyway? I think that you're best served communicating locally with people that are close by than worrying about what's happening on the other side of the flat Earth. Right. So I just wouldn't. I'm not investing in Faraday products, I guess is the way I'm saying it.
Right.
So you would need to have the box made completely out of metal, any kind of metal, aluminum's fine, and it would need to be completely connected on all sides. So when you put the lid on, that space between the lid halves and the base need to also be electrically connected and grounded to each other.
I think he said something really smart there, but he froze. Say that again, Steve.
But make sure that the lid and the bottom of the can are electrically connected as well. So that has to be electrically.
Well, the thing is that, so let's say you get everything in your Faraday, the pulse goes up, you get everything out, you set it up, and you're like, look at me, everybody. And then the second EMP hits.
Yep.
Right.
right. So,
or your neighbors go, how come he has electric power, and come over and kick your ass and take it? I mean, just
right.
And it's going to be all about food anyway. We can all yak about how ham radio in an emergency. If that ever happens, it's going to be food. You need to be heading to the grocery store before the rest of the looters do.
And all that stuff's just it's great for videos on YouTube. I mean, that's the way I look at it.
Right, Hertz.
Honestly,
it's all just in time manufacturing. There's nothing sitting around for folks to use.
Right.
Well, you'd have to make the things that make the things that make the things that make the things, so that we could then have things again. That's how far removed we are.
10 levels.
Plus, the materials are probably all imported from China, right?
Or Russia.
Well, I mean, look at what happened when the chip fab caught on fire and how that delayed everything. Now we're talking about every chip fab being out of business. We wouldn't have chips anymore.
So probably the best thing you could buy is a really good water filter system, because you need water, and that'd be one of the first things. And I've got a creek right next to me, so I can get
probably
water.
Full of mercury and
a crick,
DDT, and all that stuff.
It's better this time of year than summertime.
Chris, don't give out any signals.
See, Chris, thanks. That you sussed out my plan, son. While I was sending all you people
and
in
don't
the
use
chat
your
to
fangs.
the grocery store, I was going to the big warehouse.
Well, somebody was posting that all the crypto's going, and I agree with that. But I read a lot of the doomsday news and stuff like that, and one of the things that
That's crazy
people
talk,
are really
son.
getting worked up about is cashing checks, even today, right? Going to banks and them not having enough money to pay out. And so this one guy was talking about his bonus check. He said it was a 4-figure check. So the most it could have been was $9,999. He went to the bank to cash it because he didn't want his wife to know that he had the cash. and they told him
That's
no.
right under the threshold. That's a suspicious
God.
transaction.
But they told him they didn't have enough cash to pay him out at the bank.
Right,
And it's like we have more electronic money today than we do physical money, and so they won't do that.
Must be a
cashing
small
out.
bank.
Well,
I mean, they got to keep.
neighborhood. It's probably the neighborhood bank, right
Yeah.
up the street, right?
Right.
There's a lot of rules about banks and cash on hand and etc. And I don't.
You can't rob the bank. They ain't got nothing worth robbing.
I guess. That's amazing. It might have been a small branch. I don't know. That seems weird that they wouldn't have 10,000.
It depends on the size of the neighborhood the bank is in. They don't keep any more than they need to give out on a routine weekly basis.
Yeah. And if you get they have a suspicious activity report and cash transaction records too. And they look for structuring where Ape has a check for $7,000 and then a day later Ape comes in with a check for $3,000, so it falls under the $10,000 threshold.
Right.
For a suspicious activity report. And then they go,
Well, we sold a vehicle. This was years ago, and I sold it for like 14 grand. And
past
I
the
went
statute
to
of limitations.
Well, I went to the bank that issued the check, right? So the person who bought the car wrote a check from their bank. So I went to that bank, and I went in and I cashed it. And they didn't have, like, they had to give me hundreds, 50s, 20s, 10s, and 5s in order to come up with that much cash. But they were able to cash it. And I wanted the cash because we were buying another car to replace the selling that one, and I wanted to pay cash at the dealership because you get a better deal the more cash you put down.
Right.
And there's a difference between a pile of cash and a check.
All right.
Well, what else we
got
got?
into banking today, huh?
Pretty far off of wire.
We're going to roll in a commercial.
We are.
Because we're going to roll in a commercial. We are.
Is this for the challenge? Is this for our challenge coins?
Yes.
No. Yeah, son, we don't. I'm sorry. Selling a challenge coin kind of is. I don't get that, but that's.
Can it radiate?
Isn't that like a military thing?
Yes, that's who came up with that, and
we're trying to
they
come
give
off of
out
the
challenge
military
coins. It's
Are they
kind of tactical, Chuck. That's right.
Tactical.
They give you challenge coins in the military when you do something or some awesomeness or whatever. You don't buy a challenge
coin over your heart; it'll protect you. Tactical.
You don't buy challenge coins. You're awarded them.
Are you sick of those boring foam coffee cups? Well, introducing the all-new stainless steel black tumbler from Coffee and Ham Radios. Crafted for coffee lovers and ham radio enthusiasts alike. With its tip-proof design, you'll never spill a drop. The latchable lid keeps your hot drinks hot and your cold drinks cold. Don't wait. Get yours today from coffeeandhamradios.com. And while you're there, check out some of those antennas. They're going off like coffee and ham radio.
And a big shout out to Glenn VK2HTV for those awesome audio overdubs of my poor commercial shooting.
Jim, I thought during the wire antenna show you would have done a wire antenna commercial.
That's what I thought.
I haven't shot any new antenna commercials. Those are the same ones. Whatever. He didn't overdub those. Never mind. It'll be all right.
Still time.
I want to get rid of the tumblers.
We do have antenna kits,
and y'all are
guys.
worried about that in case I die in the middle of this power supply debacle.
But
I brought in a hitter. I brought in a hitter yesterday. He's not in the chat. At least I hadn't seen him. Hollywood has been giving me some pointers. And, we spent about 3 hours component level debugging the power supply yesterday.
Nice.
How about that?
Which is
The
fun.
power supply you could have returned. But you're having fun, right? And you haven't killed yourself yet.
I would rather do it and learn about it than send it back. And plus, with shipping that heavy bastard is just a pain in the ass. So
that's their problem.
Coming up Monday night, before we get out of here, or before Chuck starts talking about antennas again, Steve on the Nugget Show Monday night. And are we going early? Are we started at 6 or 5 or what?
I think we might need to start early with the number of things we've got for exchange and the amount of time the exchange will take. It's normally at 6:30 Central, but I'm thinking we might do it early. So, keep an eye out on the YouTubes and it'll tell you when it's coming up.
Okay. So we might go early. So we are doing a white elephant Christmas gift
Good man,
exchange giveaway thing, and there are some super cool things we're giving away, some very useful
and some
things,
not so cool things.
and some crap that I'm just tired of sitting in my house.
Are you giving away
saying.
the TV? The TV?
Yeah.
Are they?
There are 5 TV wall mounts to give away.
Oh, they multiplied. I thought you only got 4.
Oh no, I got 5. I got 6. I have one that's going to go in my shop for a TV on the wall, but you're not going to know what you're getting when we draw for the gifts. So you may get a brand new HT, or you may get a TV wall mount, or you may get a Nabri AR869 that has no box and does charge on USB-C, and I don't give a crap about the rest of it.
Transmits on all bands simultaneously.
It's an all-band transmitter at one time. That's right. It covers VHF, 220, UHF, and probably 1.2. Who knows? So yeah, it's going to be fun. You guys need to make plans to be there. So bring a lot of Christmas beverages and cheer, and it'll get you away from your family.
I think that was a Freudian slip. He meant to say tiger.
Yeah. Well, go cut some wire, and then you'll have one.
Yeah, it's muscle memory. He types that word tight all day long.
So many jokes write themselves on that one, Tim. It's not fair. We have Coffee and Ham Radio black tumblers still in stock. We have not ordered any new ones. I don't know if we'll get the same color or we'll go back to a different color or pick a new one or what. We're not buying pink.
Black.
We try to stay reasonably tactical.
Now let me get us back on. Let's get back on track on wire and antennas now.
Yes.
So we are going to offer our somehow. I don't know how it happened. We were having a hard time finding the toroid we want to use for our vertical. Our vertical's really close, guys. In fact, once I get a new, I think what we'll do is we're trying to figure out how we're going to do the radios and stuff for it. But once I get a new package of winders, we're probably going to offer it out. So look for that pretty quick. It's going to be limited to what I think 50.
Yeah.
We had a hard time finding these things, and somehow one day they popped up on my thing because I've been searching for them. And T.O. finally figured out how to order them. We were having a hard time ordering them. What you're going to need for this antenna basically is a 10-meter pole. Works great. You put that thing, and I use a stake with mine and some PVC that I've got stands, and it's super fast to put up, guys.
Just because it's a vertical doesn't mean it has to be used as a vertical either. Right? You can mount it as a sloper. You can mount it as an inverted L.
Right.
Now, our recommendation is use it as a damn vertical, but it's not mandatory
because you want to get you're going to want to get that low takeoff like a DX Commander type thing.
And we're not taking pre-orders, but we are going to offer it in supporters chat and Discord.
Yeah, supporters will probably get it
a little bit of a discounted rate for them,
and probably a few days ahead of time.
Right.
But it's so far I've used it a couple times. It's worked really well. I got the guy down in Ireland that one day, which was maybe luck. Who knows? He may have had a really good antenna too. That was 12, but we've changed it since then. The new one, pretty much so far, I've been able to tune most bands with it with an internal tuner, and that's what we're looking for. That's why we went with a certain toroid. Ape is going to. We do have a little testing. Ape wants to test them before we start selling them. Make sure that they're up to his standards, and he should have those.
Tuesday
or so.
Be here on Tuesday.
You know, Chuck just tests them by using them. I go out, and if it makes contacts, it's an antenna. You know,
that's the most important part.
It is. It is. But you know me, I get all.
And then our Moxon thing is coming, guys. Sorry about this. It's just, well, we're recovering. How's that? We have a lot of projects right now, so we're trying to get them all going. And I don't know, if you guys are interested in that reel, we might make something up for that too. I don't know. They're fairly reasonable.
So basically, let's talk about my favorite antenna, the helical dipole, like this link antenna. It's I believe it's 2 slinkies attached together with some mounting hardware, and I think it's fantastic. I think it's one of those testaments to ham creativity, where you can just make something work that really shouldn't work, but it does, and it gets results. It doesn't get fantastic results because it's not designed to get fantastic results unless having people go, what is that? Is the result you're looking for. And I personally, I want one. I think they're awesome.
Well, the first time I met James, he had one of those in his hand, and I think it was a foil to get people to talk to him. So,
Speaking of This link tenna. This is the man that makes them. He says it's a testament
right.
to insanity. I think it's awesome.
Hey, it works. It works.
We need to talk to him about the shortened what is it? The 9-to-1 whip antenna that he's putting together.
Yeah,
Ape going all Italian on us with that.
Yeah.
All the hand language.
Ape and I will be having a live
Christmas
stream
tomorrow?
coming up in the next week or so. We haven't picked a date yet.
Yeah, we got to talk about that a little bit more.
So,
Sounds like it's out, Jim. Sorry.
what?
He says he's got to talk about it a little bit more. Sounds like it's
No. I mean, we just got to figure out what
We're going to plan what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
okay.
happening. It's happening.
It's happening.
I want to do another one
It's
too.
on like
Ape and
Donkey Kong.
Ape and I did that VNA or the Tiny SA Ultra.
Yeah.
That's so
I think
precious.
we might do another one of those. We'll pick something else out.
That's precious.
Yeah, we can do
What? You're precious.
people want more SA. Ape.
So I got
More
an
essay.
HT in the mail. And I'll let it go unnamed because I'm not even sure what the HT is. And
So that pretty much tells you what it is.
Is it a flaming piece?
It is. And so I sent an email to the folks and I said, look, man, this thing's not going to pass any of the tests I'm going to do on it. And I sent them some evidence. And they're like, consider it a gift from us to you. And no need to publish the video.
Oh,
So-
that needs to come up for the show for Monday night, dude.
Oh,
You
that
give it away.
particular radio?
Well, yeah.
I don't know,
I mean,
Mike-
literally, I've got a box of cheap, crappy Chinese radios that's going up for the gift pool. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to do videos on it at some point. Just
Oh.
because I'll probably mix it into, hey, look at this test or something like, just like
You're going to give it a little bit of time before you crap on it, though. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, the video is going to be here's how you test for these things, not this is a radio that you should invest in.
I got one of these things that doesn't work. We need to talk about too.
What is that?
What is
It's
that?
the attenuator.
Oh, right. Yeah, we got.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I've got
You got-
one that's
you got
got
a
a
bad
burned
one?
up.
Oh, it looks like mine. Yours didn't work?
Yeah. Oh no, it went bad over the years, which is fine.
Oh.
Stuff happens. I'm not worried about it. And
I
I
had
bought
a-
a replacement.
I
Yeah,
had
and
a
the
dummy
cheap
load
as they
that did
are, that's the way to do it. It's just that's what I did. Mine it's lost about 3 dB of attenuation, and I just bought the same one again because they're like
Oh.
$20.
Yours went the other way. Mine gained attenuation.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So did Joe Brett's. The Joe Brett's
Yeah.
gained attenuation too.
I was happy that it gained. I would rather have it gain attenuation than lose it. I don't want to smoke my SA.
Right. Well,
That's
the
right.
important thing is
That's-
just to know the value, and then you can calculate for it. Right.
Right.
Yep. Well, folks, I think that's it. We are definitely happy that you all stopped by and watched. We had over 200 people watching today. Fantastic. If you are looking
Yeah.
for wire antennas to build and practice and play with and extend and expand, we happen to have them. Coffeeandhamradios.com has got you covered for quite a variety of currently shipping models and a new variety of antennas that are coming out soon. We're working on a vertical and a Moxon and a couple of
And a
other
OCF.
ideas. And off-center fed,
Yep.
and Chuck's got that
Right.
real antenna. So definitely stay tuned to the channel for more information on that. Monday night is the big giveaway. It's currently scheduled for 6:30 p.m. Central. If you bring the stream up, it's already linked in public. If you bring it up, it will tell you the time that it is going to start. And we might do a little bit of behind-the-scenes preparation and figure out just how long it's going to hopefully take to get through the entire list. We might not even get through the whole list. We might have to do it again on some other day to finish it out.
On New
but,
Year's Eve, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
Or New
But
Year's
definitely
Day.
fun stuff. Thank you all for watching. I'm going to click the button now. See y'all later in 73, friends.
Thanks,
Thanks,
all.
guys.
See you guys.